Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Shouting into the Void with myself, Connor, and my friend Liam, who I actually think comes into this side when the recording goes up. But what can you do? Yes, this is the weekly video series where the two of us go through the new series of Doctor Who. I say new. This series we're currently on is 16. Is it 16 years-ish old? 15?
Since 14.
14. Okay, so I was close. Either way, 14 years old.
Time doesn't matter anymore. So it was a
so
while
although
ago.
although it's new, it's 14 years old at this point. So yes, we go through all of New Who, which started back in 2005. We've already done series 1, series 2. We're now on series 3 with David Tennant as the 10th Doctor and Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones, our one and only companion who's still on her one trip. And we're on episode 4, which is the start of this season's first two-parter. It is the Daleks in Manhattan. I wonder who the villains are.
The Cybermen.
Yeah, could you imagine? What a twist!
Sadly, they're not in this series.
No,
can you do?
Unfortunately.
Or the next one.
Oh, they're not. It takes a while now. I guess it depends where you put the Christmas special. Maybe.
Is it series 4? Is it the specials?
It's the specials.
It's the specials.
But yeah, so in this episode, Doctor and Martha arrive in 1930s New York.
Yep.
Early 1930s New York, I think.
So I think it's 1930 on the dot, I think.
There you go. And it's a shithole, basically. I don't think it's the most glamorous of New York times, but I mean that's part of the point of the episode, part of the messaging I think it tries to get across.
Better than the last New York in the last one.
Yes, yeah, probably.
Lots of New York.
There's too many New York.
Every story must be in New York.
But yes, the Doctor and Martha, who is still on her one trip, as we've mentioned, she only gets one, and this is her one, despite it being her third. Technically third, unless between this one and last week's they did all the books, maybe they're in that gap. So but yeah, and they turn up and something fishy is going on. A load of homeless people end up going missing whenever they're invited to do some work. The Empire State Building's still under construction, and yeah, they just have to, I guess it kind of starts off as a mystery as to what's going on, as every episode of Doctor Who starts.
As long as your eyes are closed for the title.
Yeah, as long as you don't see the title, you don't know. Or the previously Next Time trailer. So
yeah.
But yeah, so what did you think of it overall? What were your impressions?
I enjoyed it. I liked it. I think it was about as what I was expecting in terms of like my overall thoughts on the story anyway. I was like, yeah, it's fine. I really liked the Daleks. I think I'm a bit mixed, more so on the in Manhattan part of it.
Yep.
At times. But we can talk about that as we delve into it. But for part 1 and for a 2-part Dalek story, I will give it props to having the Daleks appear fairly early on. I mean, actually get quite a good chunk of them. Normally with 2-parters with like big villains and stuff, they will just save the cliffhanger ending of part 1 being like, oh, it's them, like we know. So I actually liked them kind of changing that up a bit. So that was fun. And I liked the setting. I liked a lot of the characters in it for the most part. Knowing where it goes, I guess, makes it not quite as interesting, I guess. And we've got some fun facts about the fact that they did spoil the cliffhanger on the Radio Times cover, but that's
Excellent.
Fine. But yeah, overall, I do remember liking it when it first aired. I haven't really revisited it that much in recent years. But yeah, I do have some issues with it. But overall, I think it's a okay first part to 2-part. I hope, though, part 2 really does elevate it. Elevate, you get it? Much more than it currently stands.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think for me, this is, I mean, as with every 2-parter, it's a 2-parter. So we can say what we think about this episode, but it won't be the story. That'll be next week when you finally get answers to some questions, although I don't necessarily think that there's too many questions that are left hanging from the end of this part one. Maybe there's kind of one about what's happening to the people, but then you could argue, well, that's the pig slaves, because you don't know about what's happening to the people. You think it's the pig slaves kind of thing. And so it's kind of like oh, well, all the questions have been answered. We know what the Daleks are doing. We know why the people are going. Yeah, that's basically all you need to, all the questions that were set up in this episode. But yeah, I think this one for me, when I was definitely younger, I think I liked it a lot. I think, again, because I think it was one of them things where it's like, oh, the Daleks are in it. Oh, and you're kind of, when you're younger, everyone's like, yep, all the Dalek episodes are the good ones. Even though that might not necessarily be the case. And I think as you get older, you kind of know that.
Yeah, I remember the hype being like, oh, it's the first time the Doctor's seen the Daleks since he lost Rose. What's it going to be about? And not much, but thankfully.
Yeah, that's not something in my positives or negatives, but thankfully there's hardly any reference to Rose in this episode, which I worried for, other than the passing mention of he's lost everything. But that's not necessarily about Rose. That's can be about, my planet is gone.
My planet and my people.
Everyone I know is dead.
They always survive while I lose everything. I mean, you pressed the button, buddy.
You did it, mate.
You did it.
It was your fault. Yeah, you definitely did it.
You certainly remember doing it.
Yes, that's the main thing. That's the key loophole there. He remembers doing it. But yeah, I think this is just, I think, better than last week's for me. Again, I think because the Daleks kind of, again, it's a bigger villain. You feel the stakes are higher. You feel there's more.
Elevate it.
They literally elevate it. And I felt that helped the episode more than having some crabs and some gas.
Also a classic monster, though.
Yeah. Also the Daleks.
Just a bit of a shit one.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, as always, we have 3 positives and we have 3 negatives, or at least we try to. And I'll start with my first positive. And we sort of mention it every week. The special effects, the physical effects in this.
That's one of mine.
Excellent. I want to start with it because I feel that they're especially standout in this week. Obviously the set design in the first place looks great, as is all the costumes are great, but the pig makeup is incredible.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't want to say it's easy to do cat makeup, because it's obviously not easy to do cat makeup, but to have like a humanoid pig with the wrinkles and like the fur and the snouts and everything, and to make it look like it's not a mask, and make it look like it's an actual head, I think is something it's very well done, and it really is very different to how Classic Who looked, and what that would have looked like in Classic Who. It would have been a nightmare.
It would have been the old ones all over again.
Yeah. So just the pig makeup by itself looks great. Laszlo's pig humanoid makeup, like the fact that they can change it, like the pig slaves don't necessarily all look identical as well. There's slight variations between them. Even the Dalek Sec hybrid at the end, that looks great, from the hands to the whole face, although there's it keeps the key sort of Dalek design as well as the human design, obviously. And it's just, I just can't get over how good that is. And then we get the cat lady in Orphan 55, which is terrible. But then again, to be fair, the other monsters in Orphan 55, that is also very
they
good.
Do look great.
But they put all the budget into the monsters, and then they went, oh, we just need an alien. Let's just give her a funny nose.
Where did the budget? They had to redesign the Cybermen that just soaked up all the budget.
That's what it was. Yeah, sure.
They had to glue a mohawk onto a Jadoon.
That was what it was.
That really used up all that money.
It really was. Took the £10 out of the budget. It's too late. They only had £5. They had to go down to the little makeup shop down the road and go, oh, what can we get? But yeah, just the fact that this was in 2007 as well. Obviously, practical effects and stuff has always been pretty good across the board. You just look at Jurassic Park with the dinosaurs. But when early 2000s, when people are trying to do a lot of CGI green screen, it's the time of Star Wars doing their massive blue screen sets and that kind of thing. What Avatar may have been being filmed around this point. Didn't Avatar come out in 2008? I think. I might be wrong.
2009, I think.
There you go. So that's still only a couple of years off.
Yeah.
But with everything being CGI, you couldn't have blamed the BBC for just going CGI monsters. But the fact that they put so much effort and detail into just the pig slaves alone, which are effectively background characters, is incredible. But yeah, that's sort of my main positive, because I think it just deserves the worthy acclaim this week. So what's yours?
Well, I'll just kind of tag on to that, because that was my third positive, was the practical effects and the makeup in this one. Basically just reiterating everything you said. I wrote down pig slaves and the Daleks hybrid look incredible. And in particular, I think also combined with that is the way, more so because obviously the hybrid was in like 10 seconds at the end, but how the pig slaves were shot as well, like in the sewers and stuff, like the torch shining on it. I think that also brought out just how impressive those effects were even more. I mean, the pig slaves themselves we'll get on to, but practically, I think this was a really impressive showing. Like, we've had some really great, like the cat makeup we've talked about looks incredible, but in terms of how much practical stuff they had in this one with the pig slaves and the hybrid stuff like that, there was still the CG in there as well, but a lot of this was practically done and realized. And I do think from everything we've watched so far, I think this is, from a practical effects standpoint, probably the most impressive episode for me.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, even just like the set design as well, you know, it doesn't feel like they're on an empty set. It feels like they're at the Empire State Building. It feels like they're in Central Park, even though they're not. They're somewhere in Wales, I expect. But yeah, it's excellent stuff. My second one is Solomon, the character of. I always remember liking him when I watched it when I was younger. I think that's the whole point. It makes his eventual fates in the next episode even more impactful, I think.
I don't know what you mean.
No, obviously, yeah. But
he lives a long, happy life. He's 2 days away from retirement. What do you mean?
He's perfectly fine.
He's absolutely fine in heaven.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think he's obviously this leader of Hooverville. How that came about, we don't really know, but obviously everyone respects him, and then there's sort of instant respect that the audience has for him when they see him. He could have just taken the bread and just given it back to him and said, "Don't steal," but the fact that he splits it and gives it to each of them to say that, you know, we need to stick together type thing. And that's exactly how he is throughout the whole of this two-part, but especially this episode, where he doesn't really want to leave anyone behind, but he also knows what's best for everyone.
Bye, Frank. Bye.
Yeah. Mainly because obviously Frank gets taken, and he obviously doesn't want Frank to die, but he knows that the best way for them to either get Frank back or stop more people going missing is to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, and he admits how scared he was, so, which I like.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's definitely, of the three, maybe four side characters we get introduced in this one, he's definitely the best. Yeah, we'll come on to that one. Who may be the worst.
He let me in with cold grey eyes.
God, we'll come on to that, because there's definitely, I have some thoughts, but I'm still not sure where I land on that.
Okay.
But
on good old 3000 H.
Yeah, have I even spelled? Yeah, I have. Yeah, I was checking I spelled her name right. Yeah. But yeah, Solomon, I think, is definitely by far the best of the side characters. You know, by miles, really. Yeah. So, what is your? Oh, I guess your top point then, if you've.
Yeah, well, actually, this is my second point, so I'm kind of jumping on again. I've put the supporting characters. Solomon is top on the list. I really like him. We were a hype household, because at the time we were big Hobby City fans. So when Rick Griffin from Hobby City is there leading Hooverville, we lost our minds. Little did we know, next week heartbreak would ensue. So yeah, I really like Solomon as well. I think the actor's great anyway. I'm a big fan. Good old Hugh Corshi. Of course, also known from The Phantom Menace.
Right. Yeah.
And to be frank, I also quite liked Frank. And I always, and I was always a bit gutted when he got taken away. I was like, oh, that's a shame. Nice he comes back at the end. And that's before Andrew Garfield's even Spider-Man. So that is impressive. I did remember him when he was cast. And yeah, I think more so with Frank, it's because I really liked his dynamic with Martha.
Someone
I
is
feel like
at
I
her
just
own age.
yeah, I feel like I just shit Martha with everyone in this series. Like her and the guy in 42, my
Everyone
OTP.
but the Doctor.
Everyone but the Doctor, because she can do better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like him. He just felt very. It was a good contrast, I think, to Solomon's character. He felt a bit more like naive,
Innocent.
baby faced.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that. Mr. Diagras, I also really enjoyed when we got him. I thought the actor gave a great performance with that. And I think it's very easy for a character like that to be boring. But I actually quite enjoyed his presence. It probably helps that he can just have like a casual conversation with the Dalek and it's not weird for him. And you don't often see that, I think. So that was fun to see someone like work and bounce off the Daleks in that way. That isn't Davros. And yeah, all the actors playing those characters, I think with their accents and stuff, they really sold it. I think they did a really good job with that. And just everything with the whole Hooverville subplot going on with the episode, I thought was particularly strong. And we did talk about Tallulah last week. Like, I don't know whether we're going to like her or not. I didn't mind her.
No,
I didn't love her. I didn't hate her. I think she had some funny moments. Maybe unintentionally funny, because her getting lost in the sewers just really every time. I remember laughing out loud at that in 2007. So that was interesting. I mean, there's not much to Laszlo. I think it's more so the story around Laszlo than him himself that makes him more of an interesting thing. But we talk about that whole kind of plot line later. But overall, I thought there was a lot of supporting characters of note to me in this one. And considering, Daleks is normally quite hype to have them in it, the fact that I also found a lot of enjoyment with characters surrounding them, I thought was quite cool. So I thought I'd give them a shout out.
Well, that's it. We're what, two-ish points in now, and we've not come to the Daleks yet. So that says where they sit in our priorities, doesn't it? Really.
Well, we haven't got to my number one yet.
Yeah, you're number one. But my number three is the concept around the Dalek and the fact that they're trying to find other ways to survive. I think for me, that is the next best thing in this episode. I like, because it makes sense. That's what the Court of Skaro is for. That's what Dalek's saying they're for. And that's why they can kind of have that little bit of emotion when they're a bit like, whichever one it is that's talking to Diagras. It's like, oh, my planet's dead.
I think from process of elimination, I think it's Just.
Right. It's just the one. Yeah.
Do you want, because of my nerdy.
Oh, do you remember who was the one with the back panels?
Yeah, because I remember going the action figure.
Yeah.
Dalek Faye's the one with the back panels gone.
Yeah.
Obviously, Dalek Sek's the black one.
Yeah.
And Dalek Khan's got the really deep voice in this story.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming it's
the other one.
That's me with my big ass nerd energy for the week again. Sorry about that.
It's understandable.
But
I just like the idea that these are different Daleks and they're trying to find different ways to survive. And it makes sense. They've done their research, how and it helps that we've just seen New York when Daleks, that's like, versions of this city, or Jast says version of this city span through time, yet the Daleks keep being defeated and they keep dying and that kind of thing. Clearly there's something here that's working for the humans, for them to, it's not the fact that this show's created by humans and therefore the humans need to survive. It's the fact that the humans are the best species and they're the ones that should definitely be modeled after. I love the concept. I love the idea that there's this kind of civil war brewing between members of the Cult of Skaro, that they're all, although they're put together because they're different, they're all too different to work together, which we didn't really see much of in Doomsday. They were just kind of, it was Dalek Sec and then his posse. There wasn't really any. There wasn't any character.
Bitches.
Yeah, there wasn't really any character to any of the other Daleks. But I felt in this one we get to start to see the different personalities of the different Daleks.
I think it's so cool that we have like character development for individual Daleks, because you don't often get that, because they're not in one story and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously that progresses much further next week. But it's just the elements of doubt that each Dalek kind of has about the plan in general, and their different ways of doing things. And it was a good way, I think, to bring them back and to eventually get rid of them and be like, okay, we're done with that now. Don't need to go back there anymore. It's finished. But yeah, that's my other part. Sadly, no mention for Tennant or Freema this week. Soz, lads. You were outshone. Outshone?
They will have their time in the sun again.
Maybe.
I'm sure.
We'll see.
Yeah.
In 42. Uh,
I mean, probably. They are very good in that one.
So what is your
chippers.
next slash best bit?
My
Got
best
reverse
bit.
order this time.
Yeah. The Daleks.
There you go. Look at that.
I don't think when was the last time we've lined up so well with our positives?
I know, it's like the other way. We've gone the other way, but they're all there.
Yeah,
they're all there.
Like the same. Well, there you go.
Madness.
The
Maybe
strong
Rose?
elements certainly are that. Probably. Although I like what Jackie's wearing in Rose.
Oh, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, never mind.
God, that was I can't believe you peaked with episode 1.
We did. That was it. Well, we had
Jackie's clothes.
We had the hymn debacle last week, so who knows what's going to come up next?
That is true. Who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, my favorite thing was the Daleks here. The elevator entrance scene is awesome. I love how that's shot, and it's just such a cool kind of reveal for them. A shame the episode's cool, but it's cool to me know a Dalek's going to come out the elevator. But it's still, I think, a really cool kind of entrance for them.
It's kind of like in Death in Heaven, where like the Cybus logo is on the doors where it closes or whatever.
Yeah, and then the Cyberman theme plays. Oh, yeah, God, that's so good.
But you didn't know Cybermen. I don't think you knew Cybermen were in that. I don't think, or you weren't supposed to know. So it's kind of a.
If you saw set pictures, you'd have known. But otherwise, I don't think you would have known.
Yeah.
But because the big thing with that was, Missy being the master more so than Cybermen.
Yeah, I suppose.
But yeah, so I like that entrance scene with them. The scene with who I am assuming is Dalek Just and Diagoras is my favorite scene of the episode, talking about the war and Skaro and everything and humanity lingering on. So I thought that was really cool. Seeing them at their lowest point, seeing them quite weak, I think is a very different thing, because before it's been, well, this one Dalek can kill millions, and then the finale, it's like, there's all these
of the Daleks.
Oh no, they're killing everyone.
Yeah.
And then, last time it was all these 4 Daleks are dangerous, but now there's even more, millions and millions of Daleks, and they make the Cybermen look like chumps, and I hate it.
And then next time we see them, there's going to be more.
There's going to be more. The masters of Earth and the creators here.
Yeah.
Grown from his own body. And yeah, just to see them quite weak and a bit like, oh God, it feels like, to see the Daleks after a night out on the town. It's quite cool to get that side to them. It's a bit different. Just to revisit the Cult of Skaro as well, I think is cool. Maybe it could have been a bit longer since, story-wise, it was only like 3 or 4 stories ago, but still, it's cool to see them again. And yeah, I just think it was a really interesting position to place the Daleks in, to be like, well, we're in the shitter here. We need to really come up with something quite experimental, and doesn't quite work out for them. But I like seeing them just be a bit like, we're not so good anymore.
Yeah,
coming down a bit. I think that's a really interesting place to put the most famous Doctor Who villains. After all their many defeats, it's about time they actually start feeling how many times they've been defeated. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's fair. This is a better version of Victory of the Daleks, I think. That comes up in series 5, because they're effectively in the same situation there, although I think that's only 1 episode, so I don't think it's done as well.
I think this is the most interesting use of the Dalek since Dalek, I think, so far.
Yeah, definitely, which I think is the whole point. They needed that refresh, I guess, to make them look like they're an interesting villain, so they're not just, oh, it's the Daleks again, which every time they show up, there's a worry that that's going to be the case. Same with the Cybermen, same with any kind of iconic villain. It's like, oh, it's just them again, never mind. But yeah, that's fair enough. Although the only thing I don't like is was the Dalek just waiting in the lift to be for the button to be pushed? Was that it? Was it just stood in the lift? I guess, because it's like, oh,
and I want a scene of them climbing down the ladder to get into the sewers as well.
yeah. Shh. Well, I
mean, they could elevate down, but I think there wouldn't be a lot of room for them.
Well, I assume that the Empire State Building goes all the way to the basement, and then that basement links into the sewers. They just go out rather than having to go up and down.
I'd like to think every single time they just like smash through the floor to get into the sewers.
And then the Pig Slavers have to rebuild the thing.
For God's sake, we're the backbone of this household.
That's why the sewage gap in the theatre is like on a big plinth, because they've had to build it up every time. But yeah, I mean, that of all the Dalek complaints, the only one is, why was it waiting in the lift? Maybe they're just constantly waiting there just in case, and then it goes down. I don't know.
Yeah, that's his job,
But,
just to
yeah,
duty.
maybe that's why I was pretty annoyed that that Dalek Sec's going to go all haywire. He's like, oh, I can't believe I've been on lift duty for the past 2 weeks and he gets to evolve. I'm not having that.
I can't believe he's done this.
So as we go into negatives, I do want to touch on Tallulah because she straddles the positives and negatives for me, I think.
That's fair.
Because I think she's an interesting character. I think she's street smart, but she's not smart.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because of the accent, but I got big Harley Quinn vibes, I think, from Tallulah. The fact that she can be independent and she can fend for herself, but she plays up the innocent in peril persona because it gets her what she wants. Maybe that'll be the story in the Target novel. When we
should be a serial killer.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, she actually killed Laszlo in the end.
Or maybe Solomon will.
Oh yeah,
to the top of Hooverville.
That's why
he killed all the previous leaders.
Yeah, way to ruin a character. But I think that she's definitely got the street smarts. She's definitely aware of what's going on. She knows how to survive in her business, and how to live. But then at the same time, she can't sing. It's a terrible song. Am I wrong?
I think it's quite catchy.
I didn't say I wasn't catchy. I said she couldn't sing. And it's a terrible song. Crazy Frog is catchy, but it's a terrible song.
Okay, I'll give you that. Now I want to see where she sang Crazy Frog on that stage instead.
Oh God. I can't see how it attracts that many people. If it's like a regular thing during a depression, how is it like a packed theatre? Although not really, because the Doctor's in like the abandoned upper section, I think.
Yeah.
Prodding at the jellyfish. But yeah, I think so. She is a good character, I think, but just moments where it's a bit too much. I don't think there needs to be a musical number in this. I think that's maybe one of the main criticisms is that it just feels very, it's not Christmas special. We don't need to come up with Murray Gold's original songwriting skills again. And I guess the only reason it's in there is to kind of set up Martha getting taken, even though she goes through and then back round again anyway. Because
she could just cut backstage and surprise them.
But yeah, that's my only complaint then is not necessarily to just the unnecessary music sequence, which will be my top one, I think, because it's I guess they need the other characters to be doing something while the Doctor's figuring it out as well, I think. Yeah. I guess him just poking there and everyone looking at him is not entertaining TV, which I guess is fair. And they did kind of build up it's showtime throughout the episode, so I guess you've got to kind of pay that off. As people might complain, oh, there's no show, what were they doing, kind of thing. But who knows? Maybe it's just a parallel Shakespeare code. Let's say it was. So what is your first negative then?
Well, speaking of Tallulah and potentially pointless scenes, this comes to it being part 1 of 2, I think maybe they will justify it in part 2. But as it stands right now, I feel like you could cut the entire Tallulah theatre thing out of the episode and everyone basically still would have ended up where they ended up. I don't think it really has an impact on the story other than to pad the runtime for me currently. So I just found the Hooverville stuff a lot more interesting, but that seems to mainly get dropped for all the theatre and the jazz number to put in the trailer, and the chase sequence of Laszlo and everything. Laszlo could have been anyone. It didn't have to be related to Tallulah. It could have just been a guy who somehow escaped before they took my mind.
Yeah.
Convenient.
Yeah.
So I just feel like currently that hasn't had a real impact on the plot. The Doctor could have gone down and investigated the Daleks on his own, but I guess he needed someone to give exposition to or something. We already knew Martha liked the Doctor. We didn't really need that scene with her being like, oh, Laszlo still gives me this rose every day. And then when she doesn't even bloody recognize her boyfriend's voice, it's clearly obviously him.
But he's got big teeth, so he can't hear. He doesn't sound the same because of his pig teeth.
My goodness me.
Tusks, that's the word I'm looking for, because of his tusks.
Tusks,
pig teeth. Tusks.
Yeah. So yeah, at this stage is how I will carefully phrase it before the to leave the stands come for me.
I'm sure there's loads of them.
Yeah, I'm failing to see why we needed that
Mhm.
whole thing right now, other than to fill time. So we'll see what next week brings.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think maybe it might pay off next week with the romance angle, at least. I guess it's just to add in that personal connection to some of the
pig
characters.
and the showgirl.
Yeah, which I'm sure went well for them.
Went a lot better than what it would have done if Rusty Davies didn't change the ending.
Oh boy, oh dear. Speaking of sort of that, I think one of my negatives is sort of the convenience of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, the fact that nobody else decides to go into the tunnels with the Dr. Martha, Frank, and Solomon. If they're all so poor, surely they should all be like, yeah, we'll go. Doesn't matter if it's $1, we'll go.
The characters we've already met must go.
Yeah,
no one else.
And they're like, why does Frank's met them for like 1 second at this point? Why does he go with them? Solomon I kind of get, but if he's supposed to be the leader, why would he be volunteering to leave everyone to fend for themselves? That's slightly convenient. Frank being taken but then not being processed like straight away was also very convenient. It must be a good couple of hours until Martha turns up back down there. So what were they doing at that point?
Yeah, and the fact that they managed to perfectly like spot each other passing in the corridor at the moment as well.
Yeah, so that's a bit fine. The Doctor finding the weird squid brain jellyfish, whatever it is also quite convenient, even though you don't really need him to find it, because that's not what leads him down to the sewers in the first place. Like, again, he picks it up. He spots
a Dalek down there anyway. He would have found out.
That's it. He studies it. He goes, whoop, it's Scarrow. And then it's like, oh, whoops, now I need to go get Martha. And then he doesn't go down there looking for the Daleks. He goes down there looking for Martha and then crosses paths with the Dalek.
Yeah. So that is one thing, I guess, that I did think when I was watching it, but I didn't write down anything. I feel like there were many, oh, it's the Daleks moments, considering it's called Daleks in Manhattan. Like the initial elevator. Then when you see the rest of the Daleks, they're here too. What a surprise. And then when he comes out the elevator again to bring Dalek down, it's like as he walks up. Yeah, we know. And then he works out jellyfishes from Scarrow or whatever. And then he sees the Dalek at a corner, like, yes, we know.
It's like, oh my god, it's Dalek Sec. I think there's a couple of that is definitely a bit of a. I can understand it. Maybe somebody came in mid-episode and was like, "What's this episode?" Oh, what? But that's a very niche. That's a very niche audience you're appealing to there. Also, the fact that I guess Diagoras was just happy to go along with this. They put in a line about how the Daleks were in his head, like projecting images into the far corners of his mind, I think he says, which I didn't know Daleks could do that in the first place. But also, like, how had he not met Dalek Sec, the leader of this, before going down to the basement to meet Dalek Sec?
Yeah, you thought he'd approach him.
Especially because he already knows what a Dalek is. It's not like Dalek Sec's hiding his true form down there. He's just a different coloured Dalek.
Yeah. So, and like Solomon was like, oh, he used to be like no one, and like seemingly overnight he like owns all of Manhattan. Like, where did are the Daleks rich? Are the Daleks paying? Well, that's it. So I don't know. Maybe how do they get him his money?
Maybe with their knowledge of time travel, they know like Back to the Future-esque, where they've got a sports almanac and they can go bet on the sport events.
I feel like it would have just been a lot easier if he was already rich and the Daleks would just like help us out. It's like, okay, because then you're like, well, he can afford to pay the workers even if he's not playing.
And it's like, has Diagoras been building the Empire State Building this whole time? Is it his building? Did the Daleks tell him to build it, or did the Daleks just commandeer it? And then why they're saying like, shit, the gamma strikes tonight, guys, hurry up. Surely they should have known that in advance, unless it's kind of like weather, where they can only really know it a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance. But again, with time travel, you'd think they'd have some kind of knowledge. There's a lot of convenience, I think, in this. But it's something that I overthink now after watching it a number of times and looking for negatives. It's nothing where I'm like, oh my god, this is unrealistic. I mean,
0 out of 10.
It's a sci-fi show. Anything is realistic. I can't say it's unrealistic when it's not a historical drama. but yeah, I think just a couple of conveniences which are a bit unnecessary, I think. But hey, it is what it is. So what was your next negative?
Well, this was my third one, but it's basically actually onto that one again. It felt a bit unpolished to me, is how I phrased it, because I just wanted to like merge lots of things together, basically, and cheat. I mean, more so like the green screen when they're looking at New York.
It's because they're not there. They weren't allowed. Only the photo crew could go.
Only
or
the
something like that, wasn't
production
it? Yeah.
went. Yeah. None of the cast actually went. So it's a bit
makes
like
no sense.
Yikes.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we found a wall in Cardiff that matches the base of the statue. Oh,
yeah.
Hooray. Or
just don't set it in New York. Just don't do that.
Yeah, like originally they were going to land in a theater, not by the Empire State Building. Just do that if you can make it look better.
Yeah. And then maybe just look out the window or do an establishing shot. I don't know. Don't have them facing it, because it's not what they do that a lot this series. I've noticed already. Seems every episode we get bad green screen.
Yeah. So there was that, and then more so in terms of, I think, the script being unpolished. We've talked about a lot of like the conveniences and the fact that the sewers come out into the theatre back room, so that Laszlo could be taken, and all
obviously.
And then Martha at night one just randomly appears to grab Martha because it's near the end of the episode. She needs to be kidnapped to get down the sewers.
Kidnapped again for the second episode in a row.
Yeah. And then I think some of the dialogue with the workers felt a bit repetitive, because they had to see Mr. Delgroff's like, oh, take all this metal and put it up there. He's like, but we'll freeze. We'll fall off. We'll freeze. We can't work in these conditions. And then they have a scene of them later screwing it on, being like, oh, my hands are freezing. We're going to fall. Don't worry. We haven't got long left. I just feel like, yes, we knew this. Like, let's just spend this time on maybe something else. There was just a few things like that. I feel like you could have trimmed a bit, especially because the episode was like 46 minutes. Like, you could have cut something out. Just a little bit.
That reminds me of being unpolished. Next week we're gonna come to the Dalekanium debacle, whereas in Doomsday, remember, it was called Polycarbide or something, and it's not going to be called that next week. It's going to be Dalekanium, the skin of the Dalek. So
I think they mean Dalekanium is the metal that the casing's made of, and
so then what's Polycarbide then?
I think that's the skin of the mutant, maybe.
But then why would that work against the Dalek?
I don't know.
So
I'm trying to defend them, but I just
can't. Don't do it.
Basically.
They're wrong.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That'll be a negative for next week, but they're wrong.
Okay. Yes.
I do think unpolished is probably the right word. Again, I think the only thing that is probably polished is the set design and the set design and the makeup is probably like definitely the thing that was worked on the most, I think.
And with Classic Who, it is all unpolished and it's a bit of its charm, but not here. Not when they can do. If everything was just a little bit shit, that I think then it'd be charming, because some of it looks so good with like the pig save and stuff. It's just that much more noticeable, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and that's why if ever there's a bad actor in a show, in a good show, it always gets pointed out, because if everybody else is good, the one thing that's bad is going to get picked out. One of my points was the CGI green screen. It's not working. Just stop doing it. But I think they're going to keep going. It's not working. The CGI, it's not done that much. I mean, the Dalek Sec mutant is CGI, but I don't think that looks terrible. Too bad. The bit where he gets consumed by Dalek Sec, I think, is gross, but doesn't look the best.
Yeah,
it's very weird, and it's just like green slime.
Can you even imagine that being how you go out?
Oh no, it'd be horrible. It's not a quick death, is it? Definitely not.
And alive as well, like that. He was just being digested alive in there.
But good concept, bad CGI.
But how does that even work? Like, what would that even look like? Where did the mutant even go? Like, all right, I don't want to think about it actually.
And sort of my negative, which is probably a very depressing one that I probably shouldn't have ended on, is sort of like the portrayal of Hooverville and the homeless population in New York in this episode. I hadn't really thought about it much before this, but sort of the way they talk about the homeless people in Hooverville as if they're not there, as if, I get it, they're time travelers, it is effectively like you look but don't touch kind of thing. It's effectively like they're in a museum. But it's like they're a tourist attraction more than anything else, for the Doctor and Martha. And then they do get involved, but then I think there's still a bit of a we're better than you type aspect at the start, when they move in, and it's like kind of an how is this real kind of thing, and they're very, don't want to say like privileged. It feels like when a rich celebrity complains about a film being bad and asks for a refund. It's kind of like that.
Yeah. After a global pandemic where theaters are struggling.
Yeah, exactly. But it just felt, and luckily it's only like literally the first 5 minutes, and then it's all fine. But it just feels a bit, and I know that was history, and it's good to look at that. But there are better ways of handling sensitive topics. Obviously, shown much better in Rosa in one of the recent series. Is you don't feel like they're just there for the event to watch it and feel like they're better than themselves, because there's not that now.
Especially when you then cut to a whole theatre storyline that may or may not even go anywhere.
Yeah, full of
and that gets
rich
the focus.
people. Yeah, rich people in monocles watching a burlesque show. Yes. I guess you have to have a disposable human army for next week. So
it's true.
Yeah, I guess that's fine. They're homeless. No one will miss them. It's okay.
They're taking people in the sewers. Like that's the whole. That's why they leave them down there. But pig slaves also come up and just take people anyway. Like, why not just take people?
Yeah, I know.
Own it, pig slaves.
Don't offer money, because then if they do come out, you have other problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my only sort of other issue, and that's quite a high morality issue. Again, it's not something that I don't think ruins the episode. It's not necessarily something that's aged poorly. I think it was probably a problem at the time. But kids don't really notice that. And again, it's informative for kids to know that was happening and what the Great Depression is and that kind of stuff. But having that knowledge is kind of a bit.
In my Doctor Who.
I know, right? Exactly. Have you got any other negatives?
I have one last main one.
Right.
Well, actually, all my other extra notes are kind of positives, really. So my last negative, the pig slaves.
Okay.
Effects aside, I think they look great.
They're the slabs of this episode.
But yeah, I get
the macro of this episode.
Yeah, because I get the Daleks need help because they're in. They're not.
They don't have hands.
In a good way. Yeah, and they don't. That also doesn't help. They have tentacles instead. But I feel like we did a pig slave kind of thing in series 1 with the Celine and the space pig. I just feel like it's only been 2 years since that, and you're using pigs for something again. I feel like
maybe it's to show that the Daleks are more technologically advanced than the Slovene. The fact that was
bold of you to assume they've considered the Slovene at this point in the show.
You're right. Sorry, correct. The Slovene are well and truly dead and buried at this point. So, although they're thriving in Sarah Jane at this point, so
that's true.
So they're still there.
Yeah, this is the year of the Slovene for Saving Inches. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it felt a bit like that. Exactly how they're made. They very much gloss over that. Where are you getting all these pigs from if they're hybrids and shit? Are there that many pigs in Manhattan? I don't know. And how does that even work? And they wiped their mind. Okay, how? These Daleks are in the shitter. They have next to no technology. They're at the worst state they've ever been. Yet they can make all this experiments and shit. It's quite impressive. Their biggest experiment, Sex actually had to use his own body to make this experiment work.
Yeah.
So how are they doing all this other shit? There's that. And some of them, Lazo, they explain it because he conveniently escaped before his mind was taken. But when they find that one pig that's just chilling in the sewer, it just seems quite chill. But all the others then just attack them. I'm but that one seems completely gone.
Leave our friend alone.
Why is that not also attacking? It just seems like convenience because they need to examine them before they get attacked by them, I guess. So there was just a few things like that. And when they're being chased by them, or Mr. Dagros is walking in and they will just stare at him, and then they go, it takes me out of it. I just piss myself every time. If when Mr. Dagros walks in, if they all just watched him and didn't say a word, they're just completely silent, I think that would be terrifying. Instead of going, I'm just oh, come on now. Come on,
I think when they're in the dark in the sewer and they're all advancing on the Doctor, I think that's quite creepy. just
Yeah,
because
then
they.
they go,
I mean, still, if that was running at you, you would be scared. If that was a dark
yeah.
alley, you would be shitting yourself.
yes, but it's not real. It's a Doctor Who episode.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, if that's the way we're going with this. Oh, God.
Just, it took me out of it a bit. If they were completely silent, I think I'd find them a lot more terrifying. But they are, I don't say wonderful to look at. They're very impressive to look at because it's a very good job. Just everything else about them are a bit like, eh.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. They're very much like they're there, and maybe they'll get some explanation. I think they do get a little bit of explanation next week, but again, not necessarily. Hey, how did you get pigs to humans? How did that work? But then you could argue maybe they needed to experiment to make sure that they could actually make hybrid things so that Daleks would be less risk. They needed to get that serum or whatever that they inject into him.
I mean, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, because Martha electrocutes more next week. So
yeah, exactly. But hey, we'll find out in the Target novelization. So this writer's not problematic, I don't think. So you never know, maybe.
Depends what you think on the story, I guess, and what you think of the Sontaran story next series.
Maybe. I mean, I do quite like that one, to be fair. I think that's a highlight for me. Well,
we'll see.
We might cross swords with that one then.
I mean, Martha's in it. How bad can it be?
That's fair. Yeah, but I mean, she's also in
Smash Cantalazo's experiment.
Yeah. Oh no,
That's only 2 weeks away.
Oh Christ. I don't think I've got really any more points. I think there's a couple of good foreshadowings for like the second part where Frank's like, you could hide a whole army down here, kind of thing. Whether that's for the pig slaves or the fact they have humans on ice, basically.
Yeah.
I put Frank played himself because he did not need to stop, grab the broom, and then try.
It was his own fault.
Like if you both kept running, you'd have been fine and safe.
They didn't
even realize you'd turned that corner until you picked up the broom.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's your fault. They did another.
Don't be a hero, Frank.
Yeah, don't. People will hate you until you have to come back in 2021 as another hero.
You get Emma Stone killed. Don't be a hero.
There was another wrong way joke. When somebody goes that one way and they like, oh no, it's this way. That was that one with Tallulah, which we already saw in the Shakespeare Code, and we also saw in Army of Ghosts. So let's find out if we get one in Family of Blood. Because that's the
classic humor for Doctor Who.
He's into musical theatre line for Tallulah to Martha to insinuate the Doctor's sexuality. But there's been a number of hints so far this series that the Doctor may be gay. One where it's a fleeting reference to maybe making out with Shakespeare. He also offers to make out with Frank in this episode. So you never know. Maybe,
and he's not into Martha.
You are. There you go. Yeah, it all lines up. It all lines up.
We burst this show wide open in my Doctor Who.
Politics.
Unbelievable.
I put poor Laszlo not hot anymore.
I mean, if you're into pigs, men are pigs after all.
I mean, I'm not David Cameron, so.
Oh.
Damn.
Politics.
In my
shouting
reaction.
into the void.
Yeah, dodgy green.
Damn, I'd forgotten about that. I can't believe you remember that.
You're welcome.
Time to watch Black Mirror.
Whatever you do not Google David Cameron pig, unless you're intrigued in British politics.
Yeah.
I didn't quite. There's a line that Solomon says where he's like pointing to the Empire State Building, and they're like, how come they can do that, but we're living down here? I'm like, well, the Empire State Building wasn't government funded, I don't think. Like, that's private enterprise. Like, it's the same as saying why footballers getting paid so much money, but NHS staff aren't. It's like, well, football clubs don't pay NHS staff. It's a private company. They can pay whatever they want. Yeah, I get it's annoying when there's a homeless population and you can see other things doing well, but that's not necessarily on. I'm very capitalist here. It's not. It's not.
I was going to say.
I know it's not necessarily on the companies.
Someone's
that
getting
are doing
cancelled.
It should be more the government helping.
Connor thinks footballers deserve their wages more than nurses deserve their wages.
Oh wait!
You heard it here first. You heard it here first, folks.
That's not what I said.
Hashtag cancel Connor.
But yeah, it's a case of like, the government should be doing more, and obviously there's a depression going on because of, I guess it's implied in the episode. I don't know that much about the Great Depression, but it's implied that the government did something that fucked it up. Because that's like when they're like, oh, this guy was president, and then it all went downhill, which is what it sounds like. But my depression history is pretty flaky.
Yeah, mine's just looking in the mirror. That's all they know of it. So
yeah, exactly.
God, got real.
This is also one of two stories set around the same time. I think this season. What was the other one I was thinking of? I didn't even write it. It's this one, and then obviously, Family of Blood is probably set 20 years ish before. I can't remember if Family of Blood's before the First World War, isn't it? It's
a couple of years before. Yeah.
So these are like two set around. Obviously, we have loads of modern day ones, but this is like one of two that's set within the space of 20 years in the early 1900s, which I thought was quite strange, which I don't think we've had really. I put it's Spider-Man when Andrew Garfield showed up. I also like there's a I was watching him when like the Doctor slides into the queue. If you look at Andrew Garfield's face behind him, he's like when David Tennant, like he's like so surprised. I'm like, wow,
oh my god, it's David Tennant.
Yeah, it's literally that. But I was like, wow, that's some good overacting there. Obviously, maybe he didn't think he was in the shot and you couldn't see him. But
he was like, they're not going to use this take.
Yeah, basically. And where did the Dalek jellyfish brain come from? I don't.
That does get explained. I remember them explaining that.
All right.
Because I think they mentioned, Dalek Sex, like we tried recreating Dalek embryos.
Failed experiments, basically.
But it's still quite the coincidence that of all the sewers they ran into.
Of all the sewers in all the world.
Of all the sewers in all of New York.
It came into mine. Yeah, those are my only my other notes, really. So what are your fun facts?
Well, hang on, I've got a few other extra things I want to praise first.
Oh, praise!
We talked about things briefly anyway. Because I mentioned I liked that they dove straight into like Dalek stuff like 9 minutes in, which is great. Yeah. The final experiment scene, I think, is truly horrendous. And
in my Doctor Who.
Yes, and truly horrendous. And I was like terrified of that when I was little. I hated it. And I think it's such a cool visual. Maybe it doesn't look particularly great, but just the thought of like going through that, I think, is so disturbing, and I love it. And shout out to "You're calling me stupid."
Oh yes,
best character in the episode. That was the best line by far.
Scanning the intelligence. This one, or was it weak intelligence? Something like that. You calling me stupid?
You calling me stupid? I love that guy. I hope he's alright. I hope he got out.
He's a pig slave.
No, please no. I suppose all the pig slaves, apart from that, did get electrocuted, so he would be dead unless he escaped somehow. But yeah, point.
Oh, there's the target edition for
There's the target novelization.
That's the epilogue. He escapes.
Give him his own chapter.
Yeah. Oh, I wish. God's sake. Oh.
Chapter 15. They called me stupid.
When Tallulah got lost in the sewers, I went Tallulah is a nude. Because it's just it's just
it's so funny. It's like me trying to navigate my life. And when he first showed the Dalek thing, the mutant jellyfish, she's like, yeah. She made some good noises apart from her singing noises.
Yeah, except for the musical ones. I don't know if it's mentioned if Martha recognizes the Daleks in this one, at least. She's definitely not like, who are they? And she does address them as Daleks, but I don't know if that's because.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't know if the Doctor mentions them by name and she's like, oh yeah, you told me about those last time.
Yeah, but surely, because they referenced the tortured battle in episode 1, so surely she must know about the Dalek Society.
Oh yeah, that's also true, yeah.
You'd think she would. Yeah, and obviously the final experiment is, I imagine, a not so subtle nod to the Nazi Germany regime that's about to kick off in this historical timeline as well. Politics in my Doctor Who, where Daleks were modeled after Nazis anyway. Ooh.
Smash cut to they're the master race, and they're like, oh,
politics
in my woman, it's all politics.
Yeah, that's
Literally,
when
a
it changed.
master who got blonde hair in this one story is like they're the master race, but no politics in Doctor Who
No,
until Jodie Whittaker was the
no,
Doctor.
obviously, God's sake. Woke BBC, go forcing it down my throats. How dare they?
Hideous.
Yes. Well, anyway, aside from the wokeness of this episode, what what fun facts have you got for us?
Okay, they are fun indeed. Right. So the original title for this episode was Daleks in New York. They changed it because Daleks in Manhattan sounds better, which it does.
Okay.
So, huge change behind the scenes factor there.
They took a lot of effort for that one.
Yes. Now, I couldn't get any confirmation that this was like purposeful or anything from any higher ups. I couldn't see any interviews that this was the plan. Maybe it's just a complete coincidence. But this is the second instance of a fake gun occurring in Series 3, because we had Sheen's fake gun in Gridlock. And this could be foreshadowing of the fake gun in the finale that Martha's like building to kill the Master.
I was like, wait, but the Master did get shot by a real gun. That wasn't fake.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
What? Yeah, always the women.
So, yeah, I couldn't see if that was purposeful, but I think it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's like that meme, isn't it? The 50 cents thing. I wouldn't have much, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Oh, what, so, the Dr. Doofenshmirtz one.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing if there are more instances of that during the rest of the series. So we'll see. If there is like another one, I feel like, oh yeah, that must be purposeful. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Only if he wrote all those scenes in last minute, then I would believe it.
Yeah.
But yes, the Cult of Skaro are the first recurring individual Daleks in the history of the show, which is pretty damn cool. Outside of Davros.
I guess Davros isn't classed as a Dalek, is he?
He's a Khaled still, really, isn't he?
Yeah.
The cliffhanger appearance of the Dalek hybrid was spoiled by that week's Radio Times cover.
I remember that cover. I remember that. I had that one, I think.
I remember it. Gross. It was gross.
You went, oh, what's that? Because kids didn't really care. Kids didn't care that was coming. The
adults were like, it's got 6 ticks on its head.
Yeah, you didn't know then. Little did we know.
Oh, they did like a voice changer helmet of it as well.
Yeah.
I remember having that. Gosh, you should plug them all in individually. Field day with that. Oh God, thank God no one took pictures of that. Other than the Cult of Skaro, as the name of the group, this is the first time that the new series has defined Skaro on screen as the Daleks' home planet. This is the last time this was mentioned on screen was in the TV movie.
Yay! So, best movie.
Best movie.
It's the best Doctor Who movie.
Dress for the occasion. We should do that at some point. We should have a commentary of that.
100%. I'd love to rewatch it, especially as Paul McGann is like probably my second favorite Doctor. I'd say he's very up there for the first.
Yeah,
but he's the best boy for sure.
Best boy. Love Paul. This is the first time in the new series that the Daleks don't elevate or shout exterminate in an episode.
But do they shout it in the next one?
Yes. They kill Solomon, didn't they?
Yes.
Elevating.
Yes. I completely forgot they did that.
No, Solomon's fine.
I was just thinking, I was like, do they kill anyone directly in this? But yes, they do in the end. Fair few.
If you have any compassion in your hearts, well, nice knowing you, Solomon.
Whoops.
Oh dear. Stephen Moffat was originally assigned this two-parter, but he had to pull out because he was busy working on Jekyll. To make up for the inconvenience to the production team, he offered to write that year's Dr. Light episode, which became Blink. So it worked out bloody well for him.
Very well, didn't it? Yeah. That's probably what won him the head showrunnership as well, to be fair.
Probably, yeah. So there you go. I'm actually glad that worked out that way. Helen Rayner is the first woman to write for the new series and the first woman to ever write a Dalek story. She'll always have that. We'll always have Manhattan. Some of the shots of New York were shot on location, but the main filming still took place in Cardiff. And this marks the first time the new series shot anything outside of the UK.
And they didn't need to. Definitely didn't need to.
Because the green screen was bad anyway.
Yeah.
Tallulah was based on the singer character that Jodie Foster played in the musical Bugsy Malone.
Right.
Also called Tallulah. So inventive. Bugsy Malone's actually very good if you haven't seen it.
It is. I do recommend it. I played a boxer in our theatre production of it.
You want to be a boxer?
Yeah, a very weedy boxer, I might add. I did not have any muscle, so very, very badly miscast that.
Well,
wasn't my choice.
You're the very best at being bad.
Oh, Christ.
I didn't even do that, but my sister did, so I watched it. Russell T Davies chose Helen Rayner to write this based on the strength of her tortured episode Ghost Machine, which is an episode from series 1.
Is that the one where
Owen
Gwen
tracks
can
down
see...
a rapist?
Yeah, because it's like the two things that
you can see. Like,
yeah.
Two parts of it, which is a good episode from what I remember. So it's fair enough. This is the first time since the Daleks' debut story that they consider leaving their casing. So again, it's a cool, unique-ish idea, which I like. A scene was cut at the start where Martha convinces the Doctor to go on one more trip, which would have really helped.
I did notice that they said that in this there was a line that said our detour's going to have to last a little bit longer. So I was like, wow, there you go. That's how you get around it.
Detours. Okay. All right. And there was also a set piece cut where Tallulah found a cage full of the remnants of failed Dalek experiments, which would have been Guru's. But surprisingly, they didn't have the budget to do it.
So no way.
I wonder why. I'm shocked as you.
Couldn't stretch that £10 any further.
No. Solomon breaking the bread in two for the men fighting over it is a reference to his namesake, the biblical character Solomon, or the real Solomon, if you believe the Bible. Sorry, I'm an atheist.
Yeah. Oh, you're getting cancelled now.
But sorry, I've already been cancelled twice this week. So the biblical story in which Solomon threatens to cut a baby in half for two women, both claiming it's theirs. So that's. I'm glad he didn't reference it directly. I must say.
I thought it was going to be literally breaking bread in half, but that's much worse. No.
So that's a reference in itself. And religion in my Doctor Who.
Oh.
And then last but not least, and most joyous and funny of all, it was discovered at the last minute that no hands had been ordered for the Dalek Sec hybrid's costume. So the actor was given gloves for the scene where Diagoras is absorbed by Sec. You can see him putting them on. They really make a point of it.
Yeah.
However, it was realised that the panic was completely pointless and hands had been made after all. But since the scene had already been shot, it led to a continuity error as the hybrid emerges without any gloves on.
Yeah. I remember thinking that. Yeah. I remember seeing them put them on. Yeah. Oh, so they'd CGI that out now. You wouldn't even know.
Yeah, they would. No.
Gone.
They'd go back like One Division post-credit scenes.
Yeah, either that or they'll put the gloves back on the Dalek Sec.
Yeah.
Either or. Whichever's cheaper. Oh, lovely.
So what a time they had.
More excellent fun facts. I'm glad the production team enjoyed the weekend in New York.
I'm sure they had a lovely holiday.
All expensive paid trip to New York just to get one shot. Ridiculous.
Worth it.
Christ. So out of 10, what are you rating Daleks in Manhattan?
I'm going to go 6.5.
I'm a 7.
Okay.
So we're fairly close.
We're fairly close, yeah.
Pretty sure that is.
So I did enjoy Gridlock and Shakespeare Code a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I definitely enjoyed. We've gone up with mine. Shakespeare Code was wherever it was, then it was, and so we're slowly building, and it's going to drop off a cliff when we get to Lazarus.
And I prefer Smith and Jones. I think that's still probably my favorite.
Yeah.
So this is my least favorite so far, but it's still 65%.
I think this is probably my second favorite, I'd say, so far.
And it's only part 1, so how harsh can we truly be?
Yeah, we'll see how part 2 goes and whether we think that it hinders it or not next week, because obviously next week is. I've forgotten the
evolution of the Daleks.
Yes, of
la, 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 la.
It's another of the Daleks.
It is not a Christmas special.
I wish it was. Although it's November, so it's pretty close to Christmas.
Yeah, I think we're going to be quite close to Christmas for Voyage to the Damned, which will be good.
That'd be nice. Yeah. That's a nice Christmassy episode as well.
That'd be nice. Literally everyone dies.
Yeah. Nice episode.
And the actors who lived are now nearly all dead.
Yay! But it gave us that amazing interview. So
amazing interview with that guy. Yeah,
we'll keep it hidden. We'll share that interview with everyone when we get to Voyage of the Damned, because I think it's a real highlight.
He's absolutely hilarious.
So next week is Evolution of the Daleks, which is obviously sees the evolution of the Daleks. What are your sort of memories of the second part of the resolution to this?
I feel like the actual human Daleks are a bit crap.
Yeah,
I think
they're
humans with Dalek guns, and somehow they can make all these Dalek guns. Like, where are you getting all this? And
because they didn't have the budget to make loads of Dalek sex masks. So
I think I enjoy the tragedy of Dalek Sec and his arc. I think that's quite cool to see the Dalek Sec turn on him. It has my favorite Dalek line ever in it.
Mhm.
You told us to imagine, so we imagined your
Oh,
irrelevance.
yeah,
What an
yeah.
absolute burn. You absolutely deserve to
harsh.
win the day with that line.
Incredible.
So that's great.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Doctor gets hit by lightning, which is fun. So do the pig slaves. Not so fun for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a solid ending
Mhm.
to the story. I imagine, I think I probably like it just as much as this one. I feel
Yeah.
that it's just like not my favorite story overall, or my favorite Dalek story, but yeah, I think it'd probably be quite solid. I'm looking forward to seeing how it kind of wraps up.
Yeah. Well, there's no dance number in next week, so improvement.
That we remember.
Oh, could you imagine? There's a secret one. No.
Do you not remember the Daleks ballet scene?
Probably mark it up higher for that if we got that. Isn't that in that's in Asylum with the Daleks though? So
yeah, they make Daleks set dance and like shoot the ground. Dance, monkey, dance.
Can you imagine? Yeah, I think I remember liking it. I'm gonna be interested to see if I prefer it to this or not. I think it's going to depend on, like I said, not much was left over from this, I don't think, other than here's what the Daleks are going to look like. So I guess if it makes sense how it ends, I think Dalek sex arc especially is probably the highlight of this
and
story.
Dalek Khan's arc, where his voice gets higher and higher in every story that he appears in.
Yeah, lovely. I can't wait.
There is a good fun fact about that to look forward to next week.
Oh, yay!
But I saved it because obviously it's more relevant to the next episode.
Yeah. Well, he's a little bit more important. But yeah, maybe we'll get some answers to some of the little conveniences as well, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be the resolution of a two-parter, so I guess there's not really much that you can sort of speculate on because it's gonna solve the issues, isn't it?
And it's not to be confused with the most recent episode of Revolution of the Daleks. There's only one letter difference, so don't get confused.
Yeah, I mean, there's if you're watching along and you turn on the episode and there's a woman as the Doctor, you're too far. You've gone too far.
You've gone too far, Doctor Who. Woman as a Doctor.
A woman in my Doctor Who. You've gone 14 years ahead. You need to come back a little bit. Go on, we haven't even had a female master yet. Let's take it one step at a time.
It's only 7 years of Doctor Who away.
God,
we're nearly there.
Oh,
we're really not.
God, we'll get there one day.
Still got Matt Smith to get to first before we get to that.
Boy, but it's fine. It's fine. I think we're having fun, which is the main thing.
When the episodes are good, it's great.
Yeah. When the episodes are good, and then eventually after Revolution of the Daleks, it's Lazarus Experiment. So maybe we won't be having as much fun there. But yes,
for me, it's only up from there though after Lazarus Experiment.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think my only blip there is probably going to be 42, but I could end up liking it more than I did, more than I remember. But yeah, we will see. That is it for this week. By all means, let us know in the comments what you thought of the episode if you are watching along. Do you like politics in your Doctor Who?
What are you doing?
It's fine. Hopefully the audience will be like, yes, I love it. Give me more politics. And you'll get more this series. You'll definitely get more. It's coming.
Oh my God, yeah. The Master's a Prime Minister and people are moaning now about politics in Doctor Who.
Yep. So
you're a corrupt politician. You have no legs to stand on, people. Not my doctors.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing how short memory people are. And they'll claim that like David Tennant era is their favourite, yet they'll completely forget about a Prime Minister Master. And the fact that there was Slovene in Downing Street, but it's fine. It's fine.
And the Jesus imagery of the Doctor at the end of the series.
At the end of this, yeah. Faith in my Doctor Who.
Faith in my Doctor Who.
But yes, that is it. And we will be back next week, I'm sure, for the resolution, but not the revolution.
No, the evolution.
Bye.
Bye.